Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 12th day of November, 2021. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. And our first graphic coming up here showing a, winter storm warning is still out for the Haines area. And they've had at least 10 inches of snows fallen there, snowing all afternoon, moderate to heavy there, and may get another 2 to 4 inches for the remainder of the day here. Probably, although the warning's due to end early this evening, actually 6 p.m. this evening, but a ton of snow fell in Haines and along the Haines Highway during the day today and last night and today, but that'll taper off here this evening and into tomorrow. And from there, we've got a winter weather advisory that's been updated for Yakutat. And the rain they've been receiving there, they picked up about half an inch in 12 hours or so, half inch, about 6/10 of an inch in the last 12 hours. But that's expected to change over to snow as the colder air finally works into the eastern North Gulf Coast area, and may pick up about 4 inches of snow before the moisture runs out later or tomorrow afternoon. This advisory's out. Cold air expected to get in there to change the rain to snow at 9 p.m. this evening. That'll last through 3 p.m. Saturday afternoon, and at times you could see rates of 1 to 2 inches an hour. So that might make travel a little difficult. So be careful out driving, and looks a little icy on that street in the photo there. But the one of Haines here, that's a pretty nice photo there. It kind of looks like the Anchorage area now, especially up around, much of the east side of Anchorage, and all of Anchorage up on the hillside looks very much like this. And no change in that. It's expected to stay cold here for the next week, so don't look for any of the snow to melt that's fallen. Satellite imagery showing low pressure tracking north along the coast of the Panhandle, actually moving inland now. And as that low center pulled northward and the pressure rises behind it, winds gusted 55 miles an hour at Cape Decision from the west-southwest. Gusts to just under 50 miles an hour occurred at Sitka during the day today. And rainfall amounts, some areas of the southern Panhandle had over an inch, and even up to the north, Hoonah picked up a little over an inch of precipitation. Otherwise, Ketchikan and Petersburg both had 3/4 of an inch of rainfall. And again, I mentioned Yakutat picking up a little over half an inch, or about 6/10 or so. And Klawock also had about half an inch of rain. So kind of a widespread area of moderate rainfall, and pretty typical on the wind speeds with this low center. It could have been a lot stronger with a low tracking north off the coast there, but that thing falling apart enough that they didn't get to be of a damaging nature on those winds. Anyway, back to the west over interior Alaska, cold temperatures. You can see the white area over the northwest interior. That's not cloudiness, that's because the ground's cold, and temperatures below zero all day through much of the western interior there, and coming up from anywhere from 20 to 30 below in some areas. Buckland, I believe, was 26 below, or in the minus 20s, and some other areas there in the west of the Kobuk Valley to the southern Koyukuk Valley were in the minus 20s. And North Slope, though, clouds and maybe a little bit of light snow, band of moisture there on the western Arctic coast, but whatever falls, pretty light. Winds still gusting up to about 30 miles an hour to the west on the eastern Arctic coast in some areas in the windier locations there. Otherwise, just snow flurries, Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island. Snow showers continue to fall there along the Alaska Peninsula, with Cold Bay picking up, about half an inch of, about an inch of snow fell at Cold Bay during the day today. Eagle also picked up an inch of snow with that moisture got north of the Alaska Range. So there was some areas of snow there from North Waytoke all the way up to the Eagle area, and probably into Chena And actually, Fairbanks and Nenana both had about half an inch of light snow in the last 12 hours today. But amounts out west, whatever fell, pretty light, and most areas didn't see anything at all. Kodiak Island seeing some gusty winds kicking up. Let's see. Or actually, Whittier also started up there first. Gusts west, gusts 40 miles an hour at the Whittier Tunnel, and temperature about 21 degrees there. And Kodiak also seeing gusts of 40 miles an hour out of the west, but Sitkinak down south, usually a windier area than the state airport there. They had gusts around 50 miles an hour out of the west, and still looking at 30 to 40 mile an hour northwest winds across the Alaska Peninsula, but much lighter now for the Pribilof. Temperatures about freezing there. Warmer air coming over the top of that ridge from the western Aleutians, slipping on up and over. So the cold air shifting eastward, getting a little bit milder air now pushing in to the central Bering Sea. And there we go, get that loop going again. On the chart today, low pressure south of Prince William Sound, and the low kicking northward and weakening as it moves into the southern Yukon there. And a little breezy, again, Kodiak Island up to 40 miles an hour as I mentioned, and probably some winds, gusty past winds through the Alaska Range. Otherwise, that trough kept the breezy conditions going in the eastern Arctic coast with areas of flurries. And high pressure, clear skies, cold temperatures over the western interior out to the west coast there. And weak trough slipping over the top of that ridge south of the western Aleutians, bringing a little bit of moisture into the Pribilofs. A little milder temperatures too. And next system already starting to kick the winds up there out west. And we'll see that front associated with that pushes across the Shimiatu area this evening, pushing to about Amchitka tonight. So look for the winds to definitely increase markedly for the central Aleutians. Otherwise, leftover moisture keeps rain or snow showers or areas of light rain or snow for the Pribilof Islands on down to the Alaska Peninsula, with those snow showers tapering off and the winds just about going light and variable there for the Alaska Peninsula, kind of signifying a change in the pattern. And winds will also diminish for Kodiak Island, still a risk of a snow shower possible. Light snow possible eastern interior with flurries up to the eastern Arctic coast, and improving conditions for the Panhandle. Again, the advisory goes for the Yakutat area, but winter storm warning ends for the Haines area as precipitation rates really decrease or drop off from what they were here earlier today. And then for Saturday, low pressure off the western Arctic coast there keeps periods of light snow going into the northwest interior, western Brooks Range, Seward Peninsula. Some areas could maybe see in the upslope areas of the western mountains there maybe 1 to 2 inches at most, otherwise much less elsewhere. Dry and cold over the interior, and low clouds and flurries over the eastern interior north of the Alaska Range. Chance of rain or snow along the North Gulf Coast. And same thing for the Panhandle, but much actually rainfall rates a lot less for the southeast coast than what they were, but still enough moisture coming in due to the southwest flow aloft to keep that going. And then gale force winds, gusts 50 miles an hour for Adak and Atco, with rain moderate, possibly briefly heavy at times. And moving on to the outlook for Sunday. System pushes wind and rain into the Pribilofs with warmer temperatures, probably up into the 40s. Same thing for the eastern Aleutians. Look for highs in the mid-40s there. Warmer for the Alaska Peninsula with rain. And maybe an increase in the winds, but nothing too serious. Gusty west winds, numerous showers for the Aleutians. Cold and mostly clear. Central southern Alaska, look for lows 25 to 35 below up over the interior. And cold and maybe a little breezy, channeled winds for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. And also colder with lighter winds for Kodiak Island. Colder and drier over the northern Panhandle. Chance of snow showers down to the south. And Arctic system dropping down will bring snow into the Arctic coast and North Slope. Looking at the lows tonight, 30s for the Panhandle. They're freezing north to mid-30s south. Otherwise below zero conditions all the way down to Bristol Bay, right to the coastline. And again, anywhere from 15 to 30 below up over the west central interior. Coldest there in the southern Koyukuk Valley, the Kobuk Valleys. And even in the cloudy covered areas there, dropping a little below zero, except for Eagle, 4 above due to the cloud cover. And single numbers to maybe 5 below zero, so Sitna Valley, and 5 to 10 below Copper River Basin. Highs tomorrow. Staying below zero, eastern Brooks Range, or much in the northern interior. Kind of hit and miss there, either side of zero over the interior, but lower 20s. South Central Alaska, mid-teens, lower to mid-teens, Bristol Bay, and near 40 for the Pribilofs, mid-40s for the West Central Aleutians, 42 for Unalaska, and in the lower 40s Southern Panhandle. And then for the highs on Sunday, the lows Sunday morning, Quite an area below zero temperatures, kind of expanding there over the interior, anywhere from 5 to 25, maybe 30 below zero. And single numbers to sit in the valley, will, although probably dropping below zero. And areas of the Kenai Peninsula, otherwise 5 to 10 below zero, Copper River Basin, mid-20s northern Panhandle, mid-30s south, mid-20s Kodiak Island. Highs, cold, much of the same, but colder.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
AFR, Arctic Coast North Slope tomorrow for Saturday morning to the northwest coast and the northern Seward Peninsula to Kotzebue, or eastward to Kotzebue there. And also across Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, some IFR, and then northern Bering Sea, St. Matthew Island, and then yet another zone out there for Chimiana-Attu. Eastern interior, north of the Alaska Range, central upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, up toward, across the Yukon River, well north of Eagle, IFR, eastern North Gulf Coast into the Coast Range, and across Yakutat, Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, and the eastern border. VFR, Cook Inlet breaking out, western Alaska Range, Bristol Bay, and through the western interior, marginal VFR Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians. And for the afternoon, there we go. IFR extending from the western Arctic coast down across, again, the northwest coast there, Seward Peninsula, western half of St. Lawrence Island, northern Bering Sea, and then another zone out there becoming more widespread, now pushing eastward and northeastward in toward, but staying west of Adak eastward there to the Alaska Peninsula, marginal VFR. Pribilof zone in the IFR zone, Bristol Bay, VFR, Kodiak Island, southwest part of the island, Shelikof Strait, VFR, Cook Inlet, western Kenai Peninsula, Susitna Valley, Matanuska Valley becoming VFR as well in the afternoon, and IFR shrinking but persisting there over the eastern interior. And again, diminishing IFR, eastern North Gulf Coast, but holding over the Lynn Canal Glacier Bay area, otherwise marginal for the Panhandle. And for Sunday morning, IFR, central western Arctic coast, western North Slope, northwest interior, Seward Peninsula, northwest coast, right down through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, St. Matthew Island, and a swath southward there across Adak and Atka and Amchitka Islands, east and west of those areas, marginal VFR. VFR for Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, southern Alaska, most of the Copper River Basin, some marginal VFR in the morning for the Talkeetnas, but IFR back in the picture, more widespread there, eastern interior. Northern Panhandle improving, VFR, and then marginal VFR down to the south, southern half of the Panhandle, or 2/3, and then that about holds into Sunday afternoon. Notice some IFR over there by Stewart and Hyder, maybe Wrangell possibly. Otherwise, pretty good conditions there. Southern Alaska looking really good, VFR for Sunday afternoon, all the way out to the southwest coast. Norton Sound marginal. Seward Peninsula, some IFR up toward Buckland and not quite Deering though, but Kotzebue marginal, northwest coast marginal, North Slope, Arctic coast, IFR. IFR there in the central interior areas of, with band of IFR, central Bering Sea gradually pushing eastward, which includes the Pribilofs and pushing into the Fox Islands. And for the passes, marginal VFR to VFR for Adigan and Anatuvik passes tomorrow. Lowest conditions in the morning. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR day coming up for Saturday. Rainy VFR. Windy, marginal VFR, becoming VFR, taking longer on the northern entrance to become VFR. Isabel, marginal VFR throughout the day at times, less of a chance in the afternoon, best chance in the morning. Mentesta, marginal VFR to VFR. Tanita, improving to VFR. And Portage, kind of a marginal day for Saturday, could go either way. And Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels, not much here, 2 to 4,000 feet, western Aleutian, southwest Bering at the surface, St. Matthew Island, south of the Alaska Peninsula, south of Kodiak and the North Gulf Coast, across the western Panhandle. Icing, areas of light to very isolated, non-existent, moderate mixed icing there over the northern Bering Sea down to the Alaska Peninsula, and some possible icing there for the Panhandle, probably the best chance down there, and lesser icing for the North Gulf Coast and over the northeast interior. Jet stream, upper level trough now shifting eastward there, the eastern interior with a low in the Gulf of Alaska, so northwest flow aloft, cold air coming south and southeastward, 65 to 70 knots. kind of a 100-knot jet there out over the central Bering Sea from the west, going over the top of that ridge. Strong jet, though, cutting across Dixon Entrance, 160 knots out of the west, so panhandle more or less on the cold side of the jet mostly, but that southwest flow keeping it milder down at sea level. 40 to 45 knots out of the southwest over the northern panhandle. North winds over the west coast, across the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island. 50 to 60 knot westerlies farther out to the west. And same pattern at 3,000 feet. Pretty light winds there over the interior and the panhandle. Moderate chop over the western and central Aleutians below 5,000 feet.
Why is plastic marine debris so common? We know there's trash in the ocean. Unfortunately, a lot of it is plastic. We find plastic everywhere, from the ocean floor to surface. The plastics are all shapes and sizes and all different types. We find plastics on beaches, and also inside animals' stomachs or wrapped around their bodies. That's bad news for our ocean and the animals that live in it and near it. It's also bad news for us. A recent study from the University of Georgia estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic trash enters the ocean every year. That's like putting 5 bags filled with plastic on every foot of coastline in the world. That's a lot of plastic in the ocean, and it's there because, well, we put it there. The 5 most common items found during the International Coastal Cleanup are plastic cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic straws and drink stirrers. Notice anything in common with those? It's a lot of single-use, disposable plastic. It goes without saying, we produce too much waste. That waste ends up in the ocean when we litter or don't recycle. Plastic is an important part of our modern lives. We use it for a lot of good things. But we need to take responsibility for how much we use every day and where it goes when we're done with it. The 3 R's can help, and it's up to every single one of us to practice them. Reduce your use of disposable plastic. That's anything you use once and throw away. Just use less. Reuse disposable plastics when possible. A plastic bottle makes a great coin piggy bank or watering can. The possibilities are endless. Recycle anything that can be recycled so it stays out of landfills, where trash can blow away. Ocean plastic is a huge problem that's only going to get worse. Unless we change our ways, we can do better for the ocean and for us. Why is plastic marine debris so common? We know there's trash in the ocean. Unfortunately, a lot of it is plastic. We find plastic everywhere, from the ocean floor to surface. The plastics are all shapes and sizes and all different types. We find plastics on beaches, and also inside animals' stomachs or wrapped around their bodies. That's bad news for our ocean and the animals that live in it and near it. It's also bad news for us. A recent study from the University of Georgia estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic trash enters the ocean every year. That's like putting 5 bags filled with plastic on every foot of coastline in the world. That's a lot of plastic in the ocean, and it's there because, well, we put it there. The 5 most common items found during the International Coastal Cleanup are plastic cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic straws and drink stirrers. Notice anything in common with those? It's a lot of single-use, disposable plastic. It goes without saying, we produce too much waste. That waste ends up in the ocean when we litter or don't recycle. Plastic is an important part of our modern lives. We use it for a lot of good things. But we need to take responsibility for how much we use every day and where it goes when we're done with it. The 3 R's can help, and it's up to every single one of us to practice them. Reduce your use of disposable plastic. That's anything you use once and throw away. Just use less. Reuse disposable plastics when possible. A plastic bottle makes a great coin piggy bank or watering can. The possibilities are endless. Recycle anything that can be recycled so it stays out of landfills, where trash can blow away. Ocean plastic is a huge problem that's only going to get worse. Unless we change our ways, we can do better for the ocean and for us.
What is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? Well, first, let's talk about what it's not. It's not a floating island of trash like a garbage dump or a landfill. It's also not the only patch. They exist all throughout the ocean, and the Pacific Garbage Patch just happens to be the most famous. Garbage patches are large areas of marine debris concentration that are formed by rotating ocean currents called gyres, kind of like big whirlpools that suck things in. A garbage patch is made up of tiny plastic pieces called microplastics that are less than 5 millimeters long. It's more like pepper flakes swirling in a soup than something you can skim off the surface. You might come across some larger items like plastic bottles, but it's possible to sail through a garbage patch and not see anything. And they're a big problem for the ocean and us. People often ask why we can't just scoop up all the marine debris in the ocean. And the answer is, unfortunately, it's just not that simple. The first challenge is the sheer size of these garbage patches. They're huge. They're constantly moving with ocean currents. And there's debris from the ocean surface all the way down to the sea floor. Not to mention all the marine life we would disrupt if we tried to just scoop up debris. So what can we do? Well, the ultimate solution is prevention. And we need to keep that as our highest priority. We can reduce, reuse, and recycle to keep trash out of the ocean in the first place. And we can participate in things like shoreline cleanups. It's a lot easier to deal with debris before it gets to the ocean. Because until we stop marine debris at the source, we'll just be cleaning it up forever.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis showing the Chukchi Sea here continuing to close off, and pretty solid now from the northwest coast over to the Russian Far East. Still a narrow gap there of open water. The Bering Strait, that'll probably close off this weekend, and probably by the end of next week this area will be iced over. So going down the coastlines, go farther south, and see, not a lot of difference from yesterday, except Bristol Bay has a more widespread area of ice in the northern bay there. Over now Togiak Bay picking up some new ice, Kuskokwim Bay, a lot of ice there, and then ice all along the southwest coast and up into Norton Sound. That'll be expanding and growing all areas along the eastern Bering Sea or along the coastline there here for the next week probably. And from there going to coastal water forecasts. Lighter winds now for the coast tomorrow, south 15 knots. Seas nearer just under 10 feet. And south to southeast winds 20 to 25 knots with maybe some higher gusts for Stevens Passage. Otherwise 4 to 5 foot seas there. And then for Sunday, gale warnings, Lynn Canal, pressures build over the Yukon or fall down to the south there toward Dixon Entrance. Either way, it'll be enough of a gradient for gale force northerlies there for Lynn Canal. 30 knot wind, small craft advisories for Stevens Passage, north 30 knots, northwest at 20 for Clarence Strait. And winds kind of variable there on the south coast at 15 knots and north to northwest 15 knots for the north coast. Prince William Sound, east winds 15 knots, seas 3 feet for the day Saturday. North Gulf Coast, south to southeast winds at 15 knots. Northeast 25 knots for the Barren Islands. Northwest 30 knots for Kamishak Bay. Small craft advisory, Southern Cook Inlet, north winds 25 knots and 20 knot northeast winds for Northern Cook Inlet. Lighter winds in store for Sunday. North 10 to 15 knots, 2 to 4 foot seas. Small craft advisories, Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay. Northwesterlies 25 to 30 knots. And the western North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound, north winds 15 knots. Eastern North Gulf Coast around Middleton Island, north winds at 20. And for Kodiak Island, small craft advisories, north to northwest winds 25 to 30 knots. And Alaska Peninsula, northwest 20 to 25 knots, north 15 knots for Bristol Bay. And for Sunday, south as that front approaches, pushes in from the west there, so winds will turn south, but not all that strong, just 20 knots from the south and southeast for the Alaska Peninsula. Kodiak Island, west-northwest, 20 to 25 knots. Bristol Bay, northeast of 15. On Alaska Island, northwest, 20 to 25 knots. Unmak Island, west, 15 to 20 knots. And then south, small craft advisory level winds for Atka, 25 to 30 knots, probably hitting gale force late tomorrow afternoon for Adak. Otherwise, Amchitka Island, southeast at 40. And south 30 knot winds from Kiska to Shimia. And for Sunday, west winds 30 to 35 knots for the western Aleutians, Adak and Atka. West-southwest winds 25 to 30 knots. And small craft advisories for the Fox Islands, Unamak Island, southwest 30 knots. On Alaska Island, south at 25. And for the Kuskokwim Delta coastline, northeast winds 20 knots for Saturday, but west winds at 15 for the Perlofs. St. Matthew Island, southwest at 20. Southeast 20 for the Yukon Delta coast, and just 15 knots from the southeast for St. Lawrence Island. Small craft advisories for St. Lawrence Island on Sunday, southeast 25 knots, and for the southwest coast, east winds 25 knots. Gale warning St. Matthew Island, east at 35, southeast winds 30 knots, 12-foot seas for the Perlofs. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, west winds 15 to 20 knots, southwest 10 knots for the central coast, south 15 on the west side, and south 15 to 20 actually for the western Arctic coast all the way down to Wales. For Sunday, winds swing around to the north, 10 to 20 knots from Wales to Cape Beaufort. Small craft advisories for the western Arctic coast north at 25. North winds 20 knots for the central coast, and light west breeze at 10 knots for the east side. For tonight again, some clouds and flurries there for the eastern interior and the Arctic coast. Clear and cold. Look for lows 20 to 30, 32 below maybe over the western central interior. Chance of slight snow, Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Winter storm warning ends for Haines here early this evening, but it stays kind of wet elsewhere. Next front pushes gale force winds and rain into the central Aleutians on Saturday. A trough up there, Seward Peninsula and off the western Arctic coast, brings some light snow up in that area, but cold high pressure over the interior keeps temperatures below zero once again, both Saturday and Sunday, even for the highs.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.